The next topic is cross-linguistic differences in later grammar. What do we mean by cross-linguistic differences and how they are determined? Basically, cross-linguistic differences aim at grouping of languages in order to determine the similarities as well as the differences they have. Now, this also takes us to the area of contrastive analysis of languages, which also looks at not only the similarities but as well as the differences all the different types of languages have. When we are talking about this, the mechanism that is followed is basically the descriptive as well as the analysis. The studies have proved that with regard to differences, still there are certain similarities which do exist across languages. For example, speakers of all languages follow same mental mechanism, that is working memory as well as the perceptual process. It is the use of the language which is different in different situations. Then the onset time, basically with regard to the comprehension, that is also similar across languages, which is 8 months approximately, and the production, which is 11 to 12 months. With regard to the expansion of vocabulary, there we have differences. That is, children at 2 years of age in all languages, their vocabulary production varies from 1 to 500 items at this age. So cross-linguistic differences in terms of the understanding of the different features and characteristics of language helps us to define the grammatical development process in children. Many child language investigators have looked into the question of how well the acquisition of English compares with acquisition of other languages. Now, studies have been done not just of many languages but of many types of languages, that due in large part of the work of Slobin, who has basically conducted very substantial research in this area, has come up with the cross-linguistic studies and the work with regard to this. So we will look at the different studies to determine. Slobin's work, as I have mentioned, in this area is well known. Now he suggests that cross-linguistic studies enable us to explore both universal and particular aspects of language. Some aspects of language acquisition appear to be universal because they reflect either the cognitive functioning of language or language strategies that all children use. Similarly, we have children's acquisition of certain expressions related to location seem to be universal. Now, this is a study done by Johnston and Slobin, who examined this particular aspect of locative expressions, which is in, on, under, besides, between, front and back, among the children between 2 and 5 years of age. Now, in English, the terms were required in the order indicated. Similar order of acquisition was observed in Italian, Serbo-Croatian and Turkish, despite the fact that the means of expressive locative relations varied between the languages. Then we have Fenson, Sandrell and Weir, who found that Italian children have a larger number of social words, including proper nouns and social routines, than American children. Now, in general, though, greater cross-linguistic differences are found in later grammar. For instance, the acquisition of relative clauses varies substantially from language to language. Although English-speaking children may use simple relative clause by 2 years of age, they do not appear to master object and subject relative clauses until around 5. Acquisition in Turkish is considerably slower. In contrast, 3-year-old children use relative clauses quite freely in their speech in Hebrew. Berman suggests that the relative structural simplicity of question in Hebrew may explain this difference. In Hebrew, yes/no questions mainly require speakers to use a rising intonation with the declarative sentence as opposed to the subject-verb phrase inversion that cause such difficulty for English-speaking children. Other languages with relatively simple means of expressing questions, such as Mandarin, also show precocious development. To conclude, cross-linguistic studies support a distinction between conceptual complexity and formal complexity. Thus, ease of acquisition appears to be related to the formal and conceptual complexity of construction along with certain processing limitations in the child.